You're listening to the Agent Survival Guide podcast, a podcast for today's insurance agents. Informing, educating, empowering, improving the way you do business in an industry that's anything but static.
In today's episode, what does your business strategy look like for 2024? Now is the time to get organized and review your options so you can plan what comes next. Using a SWOT analysis to review your insurance business, written by Sarah Ruppel. We are moving from the busy season to the season of reviewing, organizing, and planning. In our last episode, we mentioned quite a good deal of information to think about as a Medicare agent wrapping up your AEP, and things to think about for next year. Today, I want to talk about an efficient way to organize that information and insight. And that is with something called a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then in order to complete the analysis, you need an objective or something to analyze. For the sake of this example, we'll be doing a high-level analysis of our insurance business. Next, you'll want to create a way to record your analysis. There are a couple ways of doing this, and I'll start with my favorite. Segmenting a page into 4 equal quadrants. They can be squares or rectangles, but you want them in a 2x2 grid. Then assign one step of the analysis to each of those quadrants as follows. Top left, strengths. Top right, weaknesses. Bottom left, opportunities. Bottom right, threats. With our insurance business in mind, we then go through and make lists of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, adding those notes in the appropriate quadrant. There's no real starting point for this process because as you go, you'll likely find that you need to add items to lists in other sections. The reason I suggest mapping them out in grid form is that I like having visual organization in addition to text. It helps me when I'm planning, so I can see the details in addition to the bigger picture. But you do not have to do that. You could just as easily create 4 notebook pages, one for each of the SWOT words, and organize your thoughts that way. There's more than one way to format a SWOT analysis. Because of that, we will have the link to a few helpful templates in our notes so you can find the one that works best for you. Let's talk a little bit more about what you should be thinking about as you consider the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in relation to your insurance business. Number 1, strengths. What does your insurance business do well? What are your differentiators? What sets you apart from other insurance businesses? What resources go along with those strengths? Is it a certain plan presentation style that enables you to write dental, vision, and hearing policies alongside Medicare business? Maybe it's a downline agent who has a great retention rate with their clients. Strengths can include strategies, processes, mindsets, even concepts like intellectual property. They can be proprietary technology, actual technology that you can hold, specific devices, even people. This is an internal assessment of what you're doing well with the resources you currently have. While this step might seem a bit like a glorified pat on the back, there's a reason for recognizing your strengths. You'll be able to pull out details of why those strengths work so well. Maybe it's a process or strategy that you can then implement somewhere else. Don't get too caught up in the why. Just get the what down on your list for now. As you move through your strengths, it's very likely that you'll spark some thoughts about the next part of our analysis. Number 2, weaknesses. If the last step was an internal snapshot, this step looks both ways, internally and outside of your insurance business. What's missing from your insurance business? What are your competitors doing better than you? Are there limitations to the resources you have? Maybe it's a lack of a particular resource or a need to replace a resource. Have you differentiated yourself from your competitors? Or is it hard for prospective clients to know why they should choose your insurance business? Again, really high-level items here. You don't want to get too into the details of why or how to fix things here. Just jot down weaknesses. And for a word of caution with this step, be kind to yourself as you complete it. There's no need for a scathing negative review of your business. Don't pretend you're on the judgiest episode of Shark Tank. And also don't go the Eeyore route either. Beating yourself up or getting caught up in the emotions of your weaknesses is not going to help you. We're here to identify and then on to the next one. And that is number 3, opportunities. What do you hope to achieve? Maybe after taking a look at your AEP data, you realized that people were interested in a product that wasn't in your portfolio. Maybe a new hospital is coming to the local area, and that means a new network of choices to learn about. Take a look at your weaknesses. How can you use what you've identified and turn it into an opportunity for your business? Did you have an issue with a printer during AEP? Consider looking into paperless enrollment options, like what we offer here at Ritter Insurance Marketing. Maybe it's starting a culture-related social media presence to get your name out into the community. This is the time to get some of those ideas down on paper that you've been having throughout the year. And as you work through each of the steps, you'll see the process start to come together. Number 4, threats. While having dreams and goals comes easily, you want to be practical and realistic in your planning. This step is about taking those dreams, goals, and identified opportunities and critically looking at whether or not you can move on them. And same caveat as with the weaknesses step. Don't get discouraged by your emotions here. This is the place to get a high-level idea of business risk down on paper. You want to identify threats because you can't fight your enemy if you don't know who or what that enemy is. What obstacles are standing in the way of your opportunities? Threats can be as simple as a product or carrier you did not have in your portfolio, or they could be larger, like implementing new technology into some of your processes. Maybe during this AEP, you used a service that didn't quite work out. This is the chance to identify those issues that came up during AEP and figure out how to reclaim the money it left on the table. Maybe it's not technology related. Let's go back to that new hospital coming to town. What if you're not contracted with the biggest carrier in their network? That's a threat you can mitigate by getting that particular contract. And last example here, we talked about social media. Maybe you have that social media presence and you're active in your community, but you haven't joined those two concepts together. It might take time and additional work to create that presence, but you want to get on that before your local competitors beat you to it. What you decide to analyze using this method is really up to you. As I mentioned earlier, you can start out high level with your business. Then you can delve into your selling portfolio. You can look at a social media presence, partnering with an FMO like Ritter, or adding technology like Call Vault and Shop and Enroll to your business. The SWOT analysis is a great way to make decisions deliberately, ensuring that you've truly thought through the process. We will have the links to some examples and those SWOT analysis templates I mentioned earlier in our notes for you. So please take advantage of that. And if you're looking for more planning resources, we do have a night school training all about creating a business plan. This is a fantastic time of the year to get started on that train of thought. especially after you complete the analysis we talked about in this episode. We will have the link to that night school training module and a few other resources in the notes, so be sure to check those out. And if you like what you heard today here on the show, let us know by rating and reviewing the Agent Survival Guide podcast. You can do that on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, and we would love it if you took a minute to do that because it helps us to know what you like so we can do more of it in future episodes. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next episode.
The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script editing by Tina Lamoureux. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Artwork by Vivian Zhao. Follow along with us wherever you like to listen. Rate and review our show on Apple or Spotify.